Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. So, if you've been following the news, you probably know that SLS is probably the biggest disaster in NASA's history. In fact, the program that was supposed to cost $6 billion actually cost well over $30 billion. And as a result, there was only one successful mission. That was an uncrewed mission that flew around the moon. Now, in this video, we're going to be going through a little history of the program, and we're going to be trying to break it down. Why did it fail? And where did the $30 billion actually go? Now, just a really quick history. The SLS program started as the Ares program in 2007, which was planning to use old shuttle parts to bring astronauts back to the moon. Now, in 2011, they canceled the space shuttle, and the Ares program was also very over budget, so they canceled that as well. Now, Congress in 2012 decided to bring it back, and so this is how the SLS was invented. So just like Ares, it used space shuttle parts, so the idea was that the development was going to be super simple, cheap, and fast. Now, in reality, it took over 10 years and over $30 billion, and the first launch was in 2022. Now, the next launch is also delayed to, at the earliest, 2026. So we can confidently say that SLS has been a total disaster, and in fact, the new administration is planning on canceling it. Now, the mainstream belief is that SLS program failed because of cost-plus contracting. Okay, but I came across this video, Are Fixed Price Contracts the Answer at NASA? And he kind of goes over this argument. So a cost-plus contract works by just paying all the costs of the contractor, no matter what they are. And then on top of that, you'll add an award fee, which is not necessarily a percentage of the costs, since that would incentivize you to spend more. But it's usually a fixed fee or an award fee based on your performance. Now, a fixed price contract just means you pay for what you get. So when you deliver a program on time or based on certain performance metrics, predetermined price. Now, in his video, he argues that cost plus was not actually the cause of what happened. And in fact, it was Congress, the details of the contract, and oversight that was the problem. Now, I'm going to be disagreeing with him in this video, but I think everyone should decide for themselves, and let me know what you think in the comments after watching the video. When I went online to look for the contracts, I found out that none of them are actually available online. In fact, there have been Freedom of Information Act requests of NASA, but they've never actually provided the details of it. So if you go on the Marshall Center Freedom of Information Act website, you can see the only thing they have on there is the SpaceX HLS contract, and the SLS contract is totally missing. Now, even though they're hidden, we do actually see how much they spend, even though we don't know the details. So Boeing, just on the core stage and the first upper stage, has spent over $11 billion. Now, that's just Boeing's subcontract. We also have Northrop Grumman, who spent $4.5 billion on 2 space shuttle boosters, and Aerojet Rocketdyne, which spent $3 billion on 4 space shuttle engines. Now, we can't see the full modern contract, but what we can see is this 2007 contract from the Ares 1. We can expect this contract to be very similar to the SLS contract, and you can see here that it's cost plus, just like was shown in that other video. Even in this released contract, they actually don't show the real numbers of what the base fee was and of what the award fee actually was. It's really hard to draw any conclusions from this, but it's sort of alarming that they're not even showing us what the actual contract numbers are. Now, here they do show the award fees, and you can see they're just raking in millions per year. Again, this is supposedly based on performance, but you'll see later that the performance actually doesn't matter with these contracts. Okay, so 6 years into the program in 2018, we have the first Office of Inspector General report. And since we can't see any of the actual contracts, this is really the best thing we have. So right away, you can see even back then, they knew there was going to be major delays. So the Artemis 1 or EM1 mission was originally scheduled for 2017, but because of Boeing's delays, it was moved to 2021 and eventually 2022. Now you can see here they said NASA expects Boeing to reach the contract's value by early 2019, 3 years before the contract is supposed to end, without final delivery of a single core stage or exploration upper stage. So before even delivering anything, Boeing had already spent the money of the entire projected program. Cost increases and schedule delays of core stage development can be traced largely to Boeing's poor performance, okay? So you can see here, they're blaming all their problems on Boeing, and Boeing is supposedly performing terribly. But when it comes time to actually hand out the money, they either said Boeing was excellent or very good in the 6 total periods, resulting in payment of $323 million or 90% of the available award and incentive. Now, it gets even worse actually, because costs that are reported by Boeing are not audited by NASA or really anyone. Here it says, NASA does not require Boeing to report detailed information on development costs. Later it says, internally, Boeing tracks all individual costs, but submits a combined statement of labor hours and material costs. So Boeing is doing their own accounting. They're apparently tracking all individual costs on their own, but when they report it to NASA, they just put it in one line. And here they say, in our judgment, this approach jeopardizes accurate reporting and obscures contract costs compared to the agency's official cost commitments. Okay, so here's the updated cost plus model that we're using. So the costs are according to Boeing. NASA has no idea what they are, in fact. The fixed fee is unknown. That's hidden from the public. And then for the award fee, they always receive excellent or very good, despite being billions over budget and 6 years late. Okay, now OIG put out a new report in 2020, and in fact, NASA did not fix any of the problems with SLS, and it actually got worse. So you can see here, it wasn't just Boeing doing accounting fraud, but actually NASA. So Boeing went over budget by an extra $1 billion in that year, and NASA actually removed that from the expenses that was sent to Congress. Okay, so you can see here that they spent $17 billion by 2020, and almost $6 billion was not tracked or reported as part of the agency baseline commitment. Further, most of the work on the exploration upper stage remains suspended to ensure Boeing's efforts are focused on core stage production. So here, they're being paid the same amount of money, in fact more money, but they're not even doing a major part of the contract, which was the EWS. They were only working on the core stage. Okay, and you can see here, you'd think they would switch it after those two pretty glaring reports, but in fact in 2023, NASA was still not measuring the costs and affordability of it. Okay, now it gets even worse in this August 2024 report. This was talking about the Block 1B development. It said that we found Boeing's quality management system at McCoud, which is where they assemble SLS, did not adhere to these standards or NASA requirements. Quality control issues at McCoud are largely due to the lack of a sufficient number of trained and experienced aerospace workers at Boeing. Okay, now the exploration upper stage was especially bad. Here it says the initial cost was $962 million in 2017, and that got updated to $2.8 billion through 2028. And you can see this also had a massive delay from 2021 to all the way to 2027. Now, another disaster cost plus contract was the Mobile Launcher 2. So this wasn't awarded to Boeing, but it was actually awarded to Bechtel for $383 million, okay, in March 2023. Okay, now in 2024, somehow they spent $2.7 billion, and they also found that Bechtel's performance drove the significant cost increases and schedule delays. So they realized the problem, but because of the cost plus contract, they have no leverage, and Bechtel's going to get all their money, and in fact, more money. So here it says NASA's leverage to incentivize Bechtel to perform better is limited. And of course, that means by the contract. Okay, so my conclusion after going through all this stuff is that the cost plus contract is actually the problem, and it is what caused the delays and overruns for SLS. And so I just want to show this quote from Charlie Munger. It says, "Show me the incentive and I'll show you the outcome." While a cost plus contract might not directly disincentivize you to complete the project, it really provides no incentive, especially when they're paying you out 90% of the money before you even finish. So with a fixed price contract, you're incentivized to complete the contract. And for a cost plus contract, you're simply not. Okay, now you can see as a result of this disastrous program, Eric Berger, a popular journalist, he says it's 75% that the program is going to be canceled. Okay, and just a little bonus fact here of if you've ever heard of the non-rectilinear halo orbit, this is the orbit that they wanted to use for Artemis and the Gateway space station. And they have a lot of justification for using this orbit, but the real reason is that the SLS couldn't actually take Orion and put it into low lunar orbit to land on the moon. And so they have all this justification, but this is the real reason. Okay, so I hope you guys liked the video. Make sure to let me know in the comments what you think was the reason for SLS's downfall. And then, of course, where do you think the $30 billion actually went? Do you think Boeing was honest about the costs, or do you think that it was a total fraud? Let me know in the comments. And yeah, thanks for watching.